The headset arrived in a plain cardboard box with no branding, no invoice, and no return label. I only knew it was mine because my name was written on the lid in neat black marker, like someone didn't trust a printer to get it right. Inside was the unit itself, matte black, heavy, cold to the touch. No buttons except a single recessed switch on the underside. No cables, no manual. Just one line of text printed on a thin strip of paper, tucked into the foam. Enter only when ready to stay. I laughed when I read it. Not because it was funny, but because it was trying too hard. The kind of line you put in a trailer to make people feel brave for clicking install. I'd signed up for the closed test because everyone else was talking about it. A new VR system, full sensory replacement. Total immersion. The kind of claim that normally meant better haptics and slightly less motion sickness. But the forum threads about this were different. People weren't arguing about graphics. They were describing feelings, smells, pressure, heat, things VR didn't do. One post stuck with me. It doesn't feel real. It feels like your real life becomes the simulation. I told myself it was hype, viral marketing, a community feeding itself. Then Friday night came. Flat quiet, no plans. My girlfriend asleep, my phone on silent, and the headset sat on my desk like it belonged there. I put it on. The moment the padding sealed around my face, I felt a gentle pressure behind my eyes, like a hand cupping the back of my skull. Not painful, just firm, insistent. The room sound fell away. My own breathing sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Then darkness, not a loading screen, not black pixels, darkness with depth, like standing in a room with no walls and no light. A tone rang out once, low, almost below hearing, then stopped. And I was standing somewhere else. The world appeared without a welcome. No tutorial pop-ups, no UI, just an environment snapping into place around me as if I'd always been there. The sky was locked at dusk, not sunset, not night. A dim, bruised twilight that didn't change. The air was thick with drifting particles, like ash, like spores, moving lazily as if gravity had slowed down. The ground under my feet wasn't grass or stone. It looked like compacted soil threaded with dark veins that pulsed faintly, as if something beneath it was breathing. When I shifted my weight, the pulsing paused for a beat, then resumed, slightly faster, like the world had noticed I was here. I raised my hands. They were mine, but not mine. The shape was right. The movement matched perfectly, yet the surface looked cleaned up, smoother, like someone had remade me with a higher budget than reality. I tried to speak, no sound. I cleared my throat, tried again, and still nothing. My mouth moved, my lungs worked, but the world didn't accept my voice. I looked for a menu, a wrist display, a floating icon, anything that said this is a game. Nothing. I turned in a full circle. In every direction, the landscape stretched into fog. Far out, jagged shapes broke the horizon, towers or ruins, leaning at angles that made my eyes hurt if I focused on them too long. Some looked partially collapsed. Others looked unfinished, like broken geometry caught mid-render. I walked toward the nearest structure, expecting the normal VR floatiness. But each step landed with weight. Not just the sensation of movement, actual impact. The soil compressed, tiny pebbles shifted, dust clung to my shoes. When I knelt and pressed my fingertips to the ground, it felt cold and gritty, too detailed, too convincing. A thought hit me. Simple, stupid, automatic. Okay, this is impressive. Then I realized I still hadn't found the logout button. I tried the usual gestures. Pinch, swipe, hold. I squeezed my fist, expecting something to respond. Nothing. I blinked hard and focused on the air in front of me, willing a menu into existence. Still nothing. I told myself it was minimalist design, some experimental immersion first layout. Maybe you had to reach a certain checkpoint before the interface activated. I kept walking. The fog thinned and thickened in slow waves, like the world was breathing around me. The drifting particles caught faint light from somewhere above, but there was no sun, just that eternal, bruised twilight. The structure ahead grew larger. As I got closer, I realized it wasn't a tower at all. It was a doorway, a freestanding arch made of something that looked like stone and cartilage fused together. The surface rippled subtly, as if it reacted to my presence. No markings, no inscription, just a mouth-shaped opening filled with blackness. I hesitated, not because I was scared, but because it felt wrong in a way I couldn't name, like stepping toward it wasn't part of my decision anymore. Like the world had already decided where I would go, and my body was only catching up. Then, for the first time, text appeared, not floating in the air, not projected. It was burned directly into my vision like a thought that wasn't mine. Session active. A second line followed. Exit disabled during synchronization. My heart kicked hard enough that for a moment I thought I'd feel it in my real chest. I reached up instinctively to rip the headset off. My hands hit nothing. No plastic rim, no straps, no seams, just my own face. I dragged my fingers down my cheeks, my jaw, my neck. I felt skin, heat, the faint pulse of blood. Real, too real. I backed away from the doorway, suddenly aware of how quiet everything was. There were no birds, no wind, no distant ambience, just the soft drift of particles and my own breathing, loud in my ears. I turned to run back the way I'd come, and stopped, because behind me the fog was different now, thicker, closer. The landscape looked rearranged. The line of ground I'd walked on was gone, smoothed over as if I'd never stepped there at all. And far out, at the edge of visibility, something stood perfectly still. Not an object, a shape, tall, thin, half merged with the fog. Its outline flickered like a corrupted file refusing to load properly. It didn't move toward me. It didn't need to. It was facing me, watching. And the worst part wasn't the fear that crawled up my spine. It was the certainty that it had been there the whole time. I'd just been allowed to notice it now. I don't know how long I stood there staring at it. The shape didn't advance. It didn't retreat. It didn't even shift its weight. The fog curled around it like smoke around a statue, never fully revealing its surface, never fully hiding it either. I waved a hand in front of my face. The shape tilted its head. Just slightly. That was enough. I turned and ran. The ground fought me. Every step felt delayed, like the terrain was buffering my movement. The soil stretched underfoot before snapping back into place, trying to hold me. I could hear my breathing now, ragged, too loud, echoing in a way that made the empty world feel smaller. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there. The doorway vanished when I looked back, not collapsed, not hidden, gone, as if it had never existed at all. The world ahead opened into a vast plain of uneven terrain, broken by fragments of structures half buried in the ground. Walls without roofs, staircases that led nowhere, platforms suspended at odd angles, slowly rotating as if tethered to something invisible. Every surface pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat just under the skin of the world. I slowed when I realized something else was wrong. There were no shadows where shadows should have been. Some objects cast them, others didn't. A floating slab of broken stone blocked the light but left nothing beneath it. Meanwhile, a shallow depression in the ground produced a long, warped shadow that stretched far beyond its shape. It made my head ache to look at. A sound rolled across the landscape, a deep, low vibration that I felt more than heard. The ground shuddered in response, and distant fragments of terrain shifted slightly, like the world was adjusting itself. Text burned into my vision again. Environment stabilizing. I stopped moving. The vibration faded. The moment I took another step, it returned. I froze, heart hammering. Another message followed, slower this time, as if typed by something that wasn't used to language. Movement registered. I tested it, one step forward. The vibration intensified. The particles in the air began drifting faster, spiraling instead of floating. Somewhere far away, something let out a sound like metal being dragged across stone. I stepped back, silence. The particles settled, the world stilled. Understanding crept in, cold and heavy. The game wasn't broken, it was watching. I started moving again, but carefully. Slow, deliberate steps. The world responded like a nervous animal, tense, alert, but not aggressive. That was when I noticed the structures ahead were changing, not reshaping, replacing. A wall I'd passed a moment ago reappeared in front of me, closer this time. A staircase rotated mid-air and lowered itself into a climbable position. The environment was assembling itself around my path, guiding me without asking, leading me. I followed because I didn't see a choice. The air grew thicker as I moved deeper into the ruins. The faint red-violet glow intensified, casting long, distorted shadows that slid across surfaces even when nothing moved. The spores in the air brushed against my skin, leaving behind a faint tingling sensation that lingered too long. I reached a wide-open chamber. The floor dipped, gently toward the center like a bowl. Around the edges, massive pillars rose into the dim sky, their surfaces covered in slow-moving patterns that reminded me of muscle fibers. In the middle of the chamber stood something different, a terminal, not sleek, not futuristic. It looked grown rather than built, an upright slab of dark material threaded with glowing lines that shifted when I approached. No screen, no keyboard, just a surface that pulsed when I touched it. The moment my fingers made contact, pain lanced through my arm, sharp, immediate, real. I yanked my hand back, gasping. New text flooded my vision, overlapping, flickering as if struggling to render. Player status, active physical link, maintained cognitive resistance, above threshold. The words cognitive resistance stuck with me. Before I could pull away, the terminal reacted. Images forced themselves into my mind. Not memories, not exactly, but recordings. Brief flashes of other environments, other players. I saw someone screaming silently as the world folded in on itself. Someone else standing motionless while dark shapes crawled over them, ignoring their body entirely and focusing on their head. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. Another message appeared, steadier now. Exit function, temporarily unavailable. Reason, adaptation in progress. My vision blurred at the edges. I felt pressure behind my eyes again, stronger this time, like the moment before I'd entered the world, but reversed, as if something was pressing outward instead of in. I thought of my body, my real one, sitting in a chair, headset on. How long had it been? Minutes? Hours? The images I'd seen earlier, dust on the floor, sunlight shifting across the wall, flashed back into my mind. Time was moving out there. I wasn't. A sudden shift in the chamber made me spin around. The pillars were closer now, not moving, just nearer, as if the space between them and the center had shrunk when I wasn't looking. And between two of them, the shape from the fog emerged into clearer view. It still didn't rush me. It didn't need to. The chamber itself was closing. The world was done pretending this was an exploration. This wasn't a game you played. It was a place you were tested. And I had just failed my first test. The chamber didn't seal shut with doors or walls. It simply lost its distance. 1 second, the pillars sat at the perimeter like the ribs of a massive skeleton. The next, they were close enough that I could see the texture on their surfaces. Wet-looking, subtly pulsing, as though something underneath the stone was alive and breathing. The shape stepped forward. It didn't walk like a person. Its movement came in parts. Freeze, shift, freeze again. Like the world couldn't decide which frame to show me. Each time it moved, it was suddenly closer, and I couldn't remember seeing it cross the space between. I backed up until my shoulder hit the terminal slab. The surface throbbed under my touch, warm and unpleasant. The shape stopped 5 meters away. And then another one appeared. To my left, between two pillars, a second figure unfolded from the fog like a shadow being peeled off the air. This one was lower to the ground, long-limbed, its body shaped wrong in the way insects are wrong. Too many angles, too much patience. I turned in a slow circle, trying to find a gap. There wasn't one. New text burned into my vision. Interaction event. Initiated. Player input. Required. I didn't know what that meant. My mind searched for game logic, combat system, inventory, actions. But I had nothing. No sword, no menu, no voice, just me. The shape raised an arm. Its hand split into thin strands, like wet fiber pulled apart. The strands lifted, aimed, and for a moment, I expected a projectile. Instead, the world itself reacted. The ground behind me bulged and rose, forming a shallow lip that kept me from retreating. The chamber was shaping itself to contain me, to stage me. The second creature lowered its head, as if listening for something beneath the soil. Then I noticed it, a faint hum, not from the air, from my skull, a vibration behind my eyes, in the same place I'd felt that initial pressure when I entered. The terminal flashed a new message, sync point available. To proceed, accept. The word accept felt wrong, like agreeing to terms you couldn't read, but the creatures didn't move. They waited. I touched the terminal again. Pain hit like a spike through my wrist and up my arm. I gasped, and the chamber brightened slightly, as if my reaction had fed it. This time the terminal didn't show images. It showed a symbol, a simple geometric mark that hovered in my vision like a stain. Under it, a prompt: confirm adaptation. My hand trembled. In my real life, I could have pulled off the headset, but I wasn't in my real life. And something inside me understood. The longer I resisted, the worse it would get. The world wasn't trying to kill me yet. It was trying to shape me into something that belonged here. I confirmed. The moment I did, sensation flooded my body like someone poured electricity into my veins. My teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached. My vision fractured into overlapping layers for half a second. Two versions of the chamber, out of sync, then snapping back together. Then silence. The creatures withdrew. Not fully. They didn't leave. They just stepped back, returning to the perimeter like guards who had gotten what they wanted. The text updated. Adaptation, partial. Exit, still disabled. Objective, unlocked. Objective. A small marker appeared in the distance, hovering above a structure that hadn't been there a moment ago. A tall frame of broken geometry, like a doorway made of floating pieces that never touched. The chamber opened again, not by moving walls, but by restoring distance. The pillars slid away in space without moving, like the game widened the room by changing the meaning of near. I didn't wait to be guided. I ran. This time the ground didn't resist as much. My movement felt smoother, more natural. I hated that. The marker pulled me forward through a corridor of half-ruined walls. As I moved, the landscape changed around me with purposeful efficiency, assembling paths, clearing debris, presenting routes like it had been designed for my exact panic. But it wasn't helping me. It was funneling me. The air grew colder. The spores thickened, brushing my skin like damp dust. The hum behind my eyes returned whenever I tried to slow down, urging me forward, like a leash tightening. I reached the structure. Up close, it wasn't a doorway. It was a tear, a vertical rip in the world itself, edges shimmering faintly with distorted light. I could see movement beyond it, shapes, shifting shadows, a deeper darkness that made the chamber's twilight seem comforting. Text appeared. Proceed to continue synchronization. Warning, death will not terminate session. My stomach dropped. In every normal game, death meant a reset, a respawn, a break in the tension. Here, death was part of the design. I took a step back. The marker pulsed faster. The hum intensified until it felt like my thoughts were vibrating. Behind me, I sensed movement. Those creatures repositioning again, gently herding me toward the tear. I didn't want to go through, but I also didn't want to stay. I stepped into the rip. For an instant, I felt weightless, like my body had been removed from gravity. My vision inverted, sky below, ground above, then snapped back into place with a sickening lurch. And the world on the other side was worse. The sky was darker here, almost black, threaded with slow-moving clouds that looked like bruises spreading under skin. The spores were thicker, clinging to surfaces like mold. Structures rose like skeletal trees, tangled and sharp, their branches made of broken metal and bone-like material. And the monsters were not waiting at the edges anymore. They were everywhere, hanging from structures, crawling along walls, standing motionless in clusters like they were attending a silent ceremony. As I appeared, dozens of heads turned in perfect unison, not to attack, to acknowledge. A message burned into my vision, final and cold. Phase 2, observation. Then the ground beneath my feet shifted, not like an earthquake, like something underneath it rolled over, slowly waking up. And I understood, truly understood, why the system had disabled the exit. Because this wasn't a game you finished. It was a place you were absorbed into. And now that I'd accepted adaptation, it had permission to keep me. The ground didn't collapse. It softened. That was the first sign something here followed different rules. The surface beneath my feet lost its solidity, turning pliable like wet clay. I stumbled, arms flailing, trying to regain balance, but the terrain warped under my weight, pulling me down inch by inch. I screamed. This time, sound came out. It echoed through the twisted landscape, bouncing off jagged structures and dissolving into the dark sky. The monsters didn't react. They didn't rush me. They didn't even flinch. They already knew what was about to happen. The ground gave way completely, swallowing me in silence. There was no falling sensation, no rush of air, just pressure, compressing from every direction, forcing the breath out of my lungs. The world closed in until there was nothing but darkness and the pounding of my own heart. Then pain, not sharp, not sudden, a deep, crushing pressure that felt like my body was being rewritten from the inside out. Like every nerve was being gently but firmly pulled apart and reconnected somewhere else. My thoughts fragmented, time stretched thin, and then nothing. For a moment, I thought I'd woken up. I was standing again under the frozen twilight sky. The spores drifted lazily. The horizon stretched empty in every direction. The same place I'd first entered. Relief hit me so hard my knees nearly buckled. Respawn. That's all this was. Just a respawn. I laughed, a shaky, hysterical sound that came out too loud in the quiet world. I checked my body. No injuries, no pain, no lingering sensation of what had just happened. But something felt wrong. I looked down at my hands. They still moved when I told them to, but there was a delay now. A fraction of a second between thought and action, like a bad connection. Text appeared. Reconstitution complete. Integrity degraded. I didn't like that word. Degraded. I tried to steady my breathing, reminding myself that this was still a system, a program. Even if it was advanced, it had rules. I just had to learn them. That confidence lasted exactly 10 seconds. The landscape began to change again, but not smoothly this time. Pieces snapped into place abruptly, as if the world no longer cared about hiding its edits. Structures slammed down from nowhere. Ground rose and fell in uneven chunks, and I wasn't alone anymore. The creatures were closer now, not surrounding me, integrated. Some were partially embedded in the terrain, their bodies fused with walls or floors like decorations grown into the environment. Others drifted just above the ground, their limbs trailing through the air like smoke. They didn't block my path. They walked with me. Every direction I tried to go, the world subtly corrected. Paths curved, obstacles appeared, routes closed without drama. No alarms, no warnings, just quiet refusal. A new message burned in. Iteration 1 complete. Behavioral data collected. Behavioral data. That's when I realized the monsters weren't here to kill me. They were here to watch how I reacted to dying, to fear, to repetition. I tested it again. I ran straight toward one of them. The creature didn't dodge. My shoulder passed through its body like pushing through cold fog. The sensation lingered, an oily chill that crawled up my arm and settled behind my eyes. Text appeared immediately. Avoidance response noted. The creature solidified behind me. I spun around just in time to see its form sharpen, edges becoming clearer, more defined. It had learned something. I backed away slowly. It mirrored me. Not aggressively, not threateningly. Curiously, I felt something then that I hadn't expected. Not fear, violation. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't survival horror. This was a system observing a specimen that couldn't leave the enclosure. The environment shifted again, opening into a long corridor lined with tall, narrow structures that reminded me of broken trees or ribs. At the far end, something pulsed faintly. Another sink point. I didn't want to go near it, but the corridor was the only path that existed. As I moved forward, the hum behind my eyes returned, stronger now, vibrating my thoughts. The creatures followed at a distance, giving me space like respectful observers. I reached the pulsing structure. This one wasn't a terminal. It was organic. A mass of dark material shaped vaguely like a cocoon, suspended in the air by thin strands that disappeared into the sky. It beat slowly, like a heart. Text appeared. Further adaptation available. Resistance declining. I thought of my real body again. How long had it been now? The memory of my room felt distant, blurry, like recalling a dream after waking up. I couldn't remember the exact position I'd been sitting in. Couldn't remember the last time I'd blinked outside this world. That terrified me more than the monsters, because it meant something was working. I stepped back. The hum intensified into a painful buzz. My vision doubled briefly. The creatures shifted, closing in just enough to remove the illusion of choice. Text updated. Refusal registered. Consequence required. The cocoon pulsed faster. The ground beneath me hardened suddenly, locking my feet in place. I struggled, but my legs wouldn't move. The environment wasn't violent. It was procedural. The cocoon split open. What emerged wasn't a monster in the way I expected. It didn't have claws or teeth or a clear shape. It was a distortion. A region of space where reality folded inward, dragging light and sound into itself. Looking at it made my head ache, like trying to focus on something that didn't want to be seen. The creatures backed away. This was different. The distortion moved toward me, and as it did, memories surfaced unbidden. Fragments of my life, distorted and out of order. Conversations that never finished. Faces without names. Moments. Stripped of context. The system wasn't just observing me now, it was indexing me. A final message appeared, steady and calm. Second iteration commencing. The distortion touched me, and the world went dark again. But this time, when I opened my eyes, I didn't wake up at the beginning. I woke up somewhere new, somewhere worse, and I knew with absolute certainty that the longer this continued, the less of me there would be left to escape. I didn't wake up standing. I woke up kneeling. The ground beneath me was solid again, cold and uneven, pressing sharply into my knees. My head throbbed, not with pain exactly, but with pressure, like too many thoughts had been forced into too small a space. The sky here was darker than anywhere I'd been before. Not twilight, not night, something in between. A heavy, lightless ceiling stretched overhead, layered with slow-moving clouds that twisted in on themselves like bruises spreading under skin. No particles drifted here. The air felt sterile, still. I pushed myself to my feet. The world around me was simpler now. Fewer structures, fewer shapes. Just wide open ground, broken by massive vertical slabs arranged in rough circles, each one scarred with deep grooves that looked less like erosion and more like repeated impact. As I moved, I noticed something unsettling. The delay between thought and movement was longer. Not by much, but enough that I could feel it, like my body was waiting for approval before responding. Like a signal had to travel somewhere else first. Text appeared, slower than before, cognitive load increasing, personality, coherence, unstable. I swallowed. The monsters didn't reveal themselves right away. Instead, the environment began to echo, not with sound, but with implication. Every step I took felt observed, not from a distance, but from within the space itself. Like the world was aware of my position in a way that didn't require eyes. I reached the center of the slab circle and stopped. There was no marker this time, no objective, just a single message, faint and flickering, as if uncertain: define self. At first, I didn't understand. Then the pressure behind my eyes increased and images surfaced again, my memories, but distorted. Childhood moments stripped of emotion, faces without names, conversations reduced to raw data points. The system wasn't asking who I was. It was asking what parts of me were worth keeping. I tried to think of something solid, something anchoring, my name, my life, the room I'd been in before all this started. The memories felt thin, incomplete. The slabs around me shifted slightly, rotating inward by a fraction of a degree. The space tightened, subtly but unmistakably. "Define self," the message repeated. I thought of fear, not the sudden kind, not panic. The deep, slow fear of realizing you're no longer sure what's real, and that certainty itself has become unreliable. That seemed to satisfy something. The world responded. The slabs split open, revealing a path leading forward into darkness. Not a corridor this time, but a slope descending gently, vanishing into a space where light simply failed to exist. Text appeared one last time. Final synchronization possible. Outcome irreversible. I understood then. There was no winning, no escape in the way I'd imagined. There were only states of being. Continue adapting, becoming something that belonged here, or remain unstable, fragmented, eventually unusable. I thought of my body again, not clearly, just the idea of it, a concept more than a memory. If I returned now, if that was even possible, what would go back? The system waited. For the first time since I'd entered, it didn't push, it didn't herd, it simply observed. I took one step toward the slope, then stopped, because for the first time, something new appeared at the edge of my vision. Not text, a shape, not one of the monsters, not the distortion, a fracture in the environment itself, a thin, imperfect tear that flickered in and out of existence. Like a rendering error the system hadn't noticed yet. It wasn't large, it wasn't stable, but it was wrong in a way that felt promising. The system reacted instantly. The slabs vibrated. The hum behind my eyes surged painfully. The tear flickered faster, distorting the space around it. Anomaly detected. Correction in progress. I ran. This time the world fought me hard. The ground warped violently, rising and falling in jagged waves. The slabs rotated inward, closing off space, forcing me toward the slope instead. The tear pulsed. I dove. For a split second I felt something like falling again, but sharper, more chaotic. Sensations overlapped. Heat, cold, pressure, noise. Then, silence. I opened my eyes. I was on the floor of my room. The headset lay beside me, cracked clean through the center, its surface dark and inert. My muscles screamed as sensation returned all at once. My heart hammered painfully in my chest. Sunlight streamed through the window at an angle that told me hours had passed. I laughed. I cried. I didn't know which one I was doing more. I was out, I was sure of it, until I stood up. The delay was still there, just a fraction of a second, barely noticeable. And sometimes, when the room gets quiet, when the light hits the wall just right, I swear I can feel something watching. Not angry, not hungry, just patient. If you're listening to this and thinking about trying a new VR experience that promises total immersion, don't. Some worlds don't let go cleanly. And if you want more long-form horror stories like this one, subscribe to Buried Awake. New episodes every week.